Hi everybody, Nicole Chauvet here with Realty. Yes, I am wearing my llama pajamas. I just wanted to give a shout out to my fellow realtors out there. I hope you're doing well in this post-COVID chaos market. We're gonna see what's going on. I've had to look at some comps lately and I see what's going on. There's definitely a shortage in inventory. There's definitely a lot of bidders on the table, putting cash on the table. And this can become an issue. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, when you do take a listing from people, it's interesting. They're not going to see what you see because you see houses every day. Hopefully, if you're working or trying to get some work done, you see houses a lot, and you are going to notice more and more the issues of the houses. And it's very important that you don't point them out because you are not an inspector. So don't play pretend to be Inspector Gadget because that can get you in trouble. So you want to remember, and this is what I learned in some of my classes that I took, which we're going to talk about the classes in a second. I learned that you want to be the source of the source. You don't want to be the source, especially if you're not licensed and bonded and insured to be that person. So remember that. It's interesting. You have to look at people's motivation. How long were they ready to sell before? Have they been ready? Are they ready? Does somebody need to look at the property? All kinds of stuff like that. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Obviously, everything's negotiable, but make sure you get the appropriate forms and waivers if they choose to opt not to get certain things. But basically CYA, right? Yeah, I get it. Working with sellers is hard because, and I'm sure you guys can finish this sentence, but for the most part, they always think their house is worth more or want more money, no matter what the market is. It just seems like it. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge, is the reality hit. And also, I think it's interesting too, a lot of people don't sell their houses very often, so they forget the costs that go in the process. And so I think having clarity and having sort of just being really straightforward and honest about everything, like when you do your listing presentation and you include that net sheet and you go through it all with them and talk about what's being covered and what those costs are and how that's been incorporated and the estimated net that they'll get if they put the house on sale for that price, it's an eye-opener to them. And you don't want them to come to that shock after they've already closed and be like, what? You're charging me what for what? I thought I just made all this money from the sale of my house. So the net sheet is a very important tool, even though it's probably an estimate. And oftentimes your title company will have an app to offer one that's easy to fill out. But it's definitely important to use those when showing your seller what kind of costs go into selling their home. So it's just so important to get them back down to reality. Okay, all these buyers and sellers are living in La La Land. They are like Peter Pan, and they are not all of them, but a lot of them are like Peter Pan. They live in Fantasyland because it's just, I don't know. That's just how it is. Especially, like I said, if people don't buy and sell a house that often, they forget the process, and we have to explain it to them what goes on. And it's nice to have a friendly face to do that. So your goal is to find out what you need, what you can do to help them and offer your service. And I basically see myself as a personal assistant to them, and I offer concierge assistance in real estate. And so therefore, I'm at their beck and need. But somebody mentioned when you go through the listing presentation, make sure you let them know that you are willing to be flexible in your mode of communication, that you will communicate with them as much as they would like. Some people want to talk to you every day about the market. It's kind of interesting. But, and some people want to be left alone. Some people want to be more involved in the marketing of their home. And some people want you just take care of it. I don't want to hear about it. And so they're going to appreciate any and all form that, I guess, of service that you offer, as long as you're flexible to their lifestyle, because everybody lives a different lifestyle. So basically, you're going to probably be more successful having some flexibility than you are living inside a little structural box. It has to be this way with everybody all the time. No, 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 no. And the more that you prospect for leads and the more that you figure out, that everybody's different and has different wants and needs, the better you're going to be able to read those people and their wants and needs and be able to assist them. And don't try to force it. You can't bully your way into getting a job. It's not a good idea. I worked in other industries and I saw people do this, and some of them actually got some work that way, but it's just not good business, especially if you want repeat business. So just try to be respectful. And, like I said, a lot of it's going to be learning how to listen and, of course, show empathy towards their situation, because everybody's going through a different situation. But, of course, we can all bond. And it's important to find that common ground over the fact that most of us have been locked inside for a long time and recently. And so it's kind of rocked all of our worlds, right? So yeah, it's fun to get on a personal level, not too personal. You want to keep it professional and let them know that you're there to offer them the services that they like and that they need, and that you're willing to cooperate with them. And don't forget to write down, if you're that busy, don't forget to take notes on what their preferences are. That's the most important thing. Like, even when you're doing the pre-initial interviews of your clients or possible customers, you want to make sure that you find out from them, what is it that, like, if you're talking to expireds, you want to find out what is it that they didn't like with the last person they worked with. You want to make sure you write that down, because that's what you don't want to do. So you can possibly work with these people that were disappointed in one way or another. And then there's those people that it's like, wow, that bothered you about them. You didn't like their shade of lipstick. I'm not saying that's what they're going to complain about, but some people can be definitely interesting, and you might not want to work with everybody, and that's definitely going to happen. So, the most important thing is to stay ethical, stay honest, stay on the ball. And like I said, be flexible, and also realize it's not going to happen necessarily as quickly as anybody thinks any of the steps are, because there's so many things that can come up that need to be taken care of. And that's your job. That's the fun, to me, that's the fun part. I feel like I'm like starring in the movie Mission Impossible, because I have another impossible mission come up every time. And when I conquer it, feels so good to know that I can help solve problems. It really does. And so that's going to say a lot. And I know that your clients are going to see how hard you work when you do make that effort to communicate with every side, make sure every side has the appropriate documents at the right time, that everything's getting done when it needs to get done, and that you're on top of it. And that you stay calm throughout the process, because if you're freaking out, right? If you're freaking out, and they're going to feel that stress. So try not to freak out. Nothing's worth freaking out over, right? As we get older, hopefully we find our zen and can observe and not react, because that's really the goal in life, is to not be stressful. Because if you are stressed out, you will be less productive, more than likely. I know I was. Again, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice. None of this. Have to put that in there. And remind you guys, but this is just a little bit of a tidbit of what I have been thinking about, studying, and realizing lately. Oh, and there was one more thing I was going to mention that I did talk about earlier on. So what it is, and I apologize, I should use my tripod. I don't know why I didn't, but that's okay. This is an off-the-cuff little talk here. What it was get as much education as you can. And it's not just because of what they're teaching in class. I'm going to tell you, you're going to pick up so much information about what's going on in the market that it's going to do nothing but help you do your job better. become a better agent, become more ethical and aware of what's going on and how you can best handle it to provide the best possible customer service as possible, while of course following the rules and regulations. So I mean, at first I was like, oh my gosh, these classes, because I feel like I've been trying to get my license this time around for like over 4 months now. Because I did that. I studied. What happened was I took the pre-licensing test class, because you have to take hours for pre-licensing. And then I took the test. I had to study for that, and I studied hardcore for like 2 months during that class and after. And then I took the test, and finally when I got my actual license, my brokerage got the license in the mail, I was able to take the post-licensing, which everybody says, take it right away, you're going to be glad you did. And I am so glad I did, because I learned so much more than I feel so much better about knowing what's going on in the market, because all these people are working in it and I see their frustrations, and I'm able to hopefully pick up on what I'm supposed to know right now. And it's an amazing experience. But anyways, at first I was like, wow, this is a lot of work, because you have to take so many hours to continue your license. I think every year, every 2 years, there's like so many different things you have to take care of. But yeah, so I got mine done before my year was up, instead of like the tail end beginning, because I want to be able to be like, I'm working for the next few years. I don't have time for this, because a lot of times it does take like almost, you're going to get burnout. It's going to take at least a couple of days, maybe a week, to get that education out of the way. So I'm just letting you guys know. But again, now that it's not a requirement and I have that weight lifted off my shoulders, I actually want to take classes voluntarily now. I'm finding myself wanting to take more and more and more, no matter what they are, because I'm like learning so much that I didn't know before. And it's a really fun experience. It's hard to fit everything in, especially when you start getting clients. It's like, holy cannoli. And then you start realizing how needy they are. But it's nice. It's so fun to be able to fulfill those needs. And it's so fun to be able to say, hey, don't worry about it. I got the solution. Don't worry, be happy. So anyways, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. I'm here for you. I'll keep giving you updates on what's going on in the Las Vegas market, on what it's like to be a realtor. A day in the life, baby. Hell yeah. I really, really appreciate everybody else that's made videos out there, and I'm kind of following their footsteps. They're my mentors, because that's how you learn the best. And I'm so grateful that the best thing I can do is give back to you guys and become a mentor as well. So I think that that's one of the best ways for me to show appreciation to them, because I've learned so much from these people that are already doing it and want to be a good example on how to do things and do things the right way. And trying to give it, I believe it's giving our industry a better name when we are withholding ourselves to higher standards. And if I can be a part of encouraging that while showing my journey, I'm so happy to do that for the industry. And of course, I'm usually working almost like a lot. I'll just put it that way, on something. And so I don't have much of a social life, but I love what I do. And this is a big part of that. So hopefully you guys appreciate it. If you have any questions, please comment below. Last time somebody asked a question, what was it? I think they said, do you think the market's going to drop? It depends on where you're at. I'm going to tell you right now. I live in Vegas. I think there's a couple places around the country where it's like pretty low compared to the rest of the country. And you have to consider that. And this is one of those places. So, and the fact that we're also competing with corporations and corporate money and cash buyers, it's going to be rough out there. And to be able to obtain real estate, it's going to be hard probably in the long-term future to have, again, not an attorney, I'm not giving legal advice, but I think it's probably going to be harder if you wait too long in the long term to obtain real estate, unless it just depends on the economy though. If there's jobs that pay well enough to balance it out. So there's always that scale. And that's really important to look at, is how much do the jobs pay, and does it pay for enough for somebody to afford housing? And those statistics can be found online. Again, I'm going to be the source of the source, and you can look that up yourself and tell me what you think is going on. But definitely employment is a big factor. Of course, recently, you know, a lot of people, there's been a wave of people moving, partly because of the shutdowns that we recently had to deal with. And so that's not necessarily a common thing. Hopefully it's not, doesn't keep happening, but I think that is definitely making people think differently and think that they need to make some kind of change, which is interesting. So what do you guys think about that? Comment below. Anyways, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'll talk to you guys next time.